Time now for Coming In Hot with Brent Wallace, former Ottawa Senator Jason York, and Sean Simpson.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Coming In Hot. Brent Wallace alongside Sean Simpson as Yorkie missed the first day of camp, if you will. Simmer, he wasn't done with the golf just yet.
Well, with the sweet weather that we're having in Ottawa, it's kind of understandable, and lucky guy that he can be out there on the course today.
Well, luckily for you, you get half his pay today.
Oh, that excellent.
Yeah,
I even wore the old trusty golf shirt, the team golf shirt. So it was nice to finally have some actual stuff to talk about with the Ottawa Senators and just around the National Hockey League. Just felt like there was something buzzing. And I know you were down at the press conference and got lots of great information. And I asked you off the air, and I'll ask you now, how did you go about getting said video?
So I'm new to the video side, so in that I don't know what all gear I actually need to make work. And so I had a camera, a DSLR camera, but I wasn't sure, is it going to be good enough to record audio? What are the frame rate per section? Like all this kind of stuff. So I recorded it with my DSLR, which I broke the day I broke the lens the day that you guys showed up for the bird thing. I snapped the lens that day, had to buy a new one. So hooked that up. I used my good friends from Sportsnet and from Dave Joy from TSN, asked them for cables because you don't want to mess up the audio for everybody, which people have done in the past. And then I recorded it on my phone at the same time. So I double dipped to make sure that we would have good stuff.
Very nice. So you're, I don't know how any of this works. There is a line of communication that's being sent out from their mics, and then you're tapping into that feed, obviously.
Yeah. So they have the mic set up on the table at the back of the room. It's called there's different terms for it. Malt box is one. Everybody plugs into that, and then you feed off of that.
Yeah, and you could hear all the questions as well. That's one of the nice things. Sometimes the pressers, the post games that we have, you're like, okay, I have no idea what the person's asking, but you certainly will end up hearing the answer.
Today you get to hear some questions, although I tried to edit some out just for time, and I tried to cut it down because I think they spoke for 30-ish minutes. Lots of stuff, but Simmer, we're going to get right to it. Might as well. That is Josh Norris was the question of the day. And so without further ado, and while I couldn't type and do Twitter at the same time, that's because I'm using my phone to record, here now is, already cleared by Steve Staios, and here's Travis Green talking about Josh Norris.
Yeah, I see him as a center. It's his natural position. He's had success at this level at that position, so I think to start, it's important to put him into that spot. But just in my conversations, without knowing him in the past, he seems very confident and excited to get going, and mature as well. Honest conversations about where he's at physically, mentally, and obviously we'll continue to have dialogue with him to see where he's at. I would expect that he'll, there's always bumps and bruises along the way, especially when you're coming off injury, and we'll monitor it daily to assess where he's at and what he needs to get ready for the home opener.
So, Josh Norris cleared to play. Will be on the ice tomorrow, according to General Manager Steve Staios. All is well with Josh Norris.
Yeah,
but
awesome news.
Before you begin, Simmer, one
yeah.
thing by Travis Green at the very end. He said, he'll start there at least at 7.
Yeah, well, I again, curiosity. I think some people, for some reason, have raised the idea of Stützle playing on the wing. I think you go the 3 down the middle of Stützle, Norris, and Pinto. I don't know who will be in the 4 spot necessarily, but that's a good sign. And just for Josh Norris, even though it's practicing against your own team, it'd just be nice for him to be able to get out there. Just get out and take a little bit of contact, get into some battle drills, do some different things, and then obviously get some preseason games in. So this has been a tough haul. And I think everybody's cheering for him because you also understand the work that he's put in. He is one of the most fittest player 2 years ago in training camp. So all the work has been put in, and knock on wood. Let's hope he ends up staying healthy.
And I will say, when I saw him at the golf tournament, and I've had a chance to speak with him outside of hockey, he was just genuinely excited to get back. You can see it. I'm excited to see what he can do. And I know there's so much doubt and question marks about his game. I really hope he has a great start.
Yeah, I don't have any real questions about his game per se, but I don't know, like, how long will it take now as a fan or as a media person or even as a player for you realistically to say he's out of the woods? Is it 20 games? Is it 40 games? I guess it's probably a whole regular season where you can finally say, almost like a Pinto situation, you're not thinking about it anymore. Because as you said, Coach Green touched on what he's gone through, not only physically, but mentally. And he just loves to play. Obviously, he's got a great contract and good on as an agent to end up getting that. I don't begrudge him at all. But a effective Josh Norris, along with Pinto back for a full season, along with Stützle, I like the way that stacks up down the middle in 1, 2, 3.
I mean, he had 35 goals. The guy's a sniper.
Yeah.
And I know, and he set. Did he set? I think he set the power play goal mark. If not, he was second. I think in franchise history. I'm pretty sure it's first. Anyway,
Yeah, had the real nice one-timer from that spot,
yeah.
and I guess that's the next thing. That's a nice problem for the coach to have quite a few players that could end up fitting on that power play.
Well, so I remember us last year debating, oh, they're going to have 2 great power play units, and who are they going to take off the first one and all this, or take off the second, and
Yeah.
that power play wasn't phenomenal by any stretch of the imagination. So
No, and they
and then
also
guys get
wasted
hurt.
yeah. Well, and they wasted all the training camp saying we're gonna have 2 units, and then all of a
Yeah.
sudden the season starts. And even the handling of DeBrincat, you do not have DeBrincat on your team unless he's on power play number 1. I mean, that is what the guy, and when you saw him starting running off the half wall and all the stuff he was capable of, no, he certainly I don't think that we'll curious about the line combinations and the D things, but I don't think they'll waste a ton of time in this training camp.
So and Travis Green did refer to that today. He was asked about lines right away. Sens just momentarily released the groupings for tomorrow's skate, but Greener said that they would not go right away to pairings and lines. Like, don't get shocked, and they do this every year, right? Don't get shocked if you don't see Brady, and Brady is expected to be at the skate tomorrow, by the way. Don't expect to see Brady, Stützle, like Giroux, Batherson right away. They're going to mix stuff up. Like, if you look at Group 2, I just quickly glanced. Thomas Chabot's not paired with Nick Jensen, right? Like, so we'll see. Like, Thomas Chabot and Artem Zub is there. You've got Tyler Clevin. Maybe he's paired with Max Gannett. So there'll be some different stuff moved around, of course, and we'll see that through the first couple of days. Green said basically the first 4 days we'll get through it, and then we'll see what we need to do. That's when the guys get sent back to junior and they start making some decisions. And
well, you
we
end up
are
having a game on the 22nd, then I
4
don't know
days.
if they'll end up having a day off or what they end up doing, but then I would assume at that point, you'll want to get some combinations together and deep pairings and, see where it ends up going. And I'm even curious how they'll handle the exhibition games. How many guys, young players, are going to get a chance on the 22nd? Do the Leafs end up dressing? We tend to see where the Leafs will dress a heavy crew for their home games, not so much for the road games. And I assume Ottawa will probably do the same thing.
And that's interesting, right? Is that, there are 4 road games. The Vets don't like to play the road games. The Sudbury one is interesting because it's against Crosby and the Penguins, and that makes maybe perhaps a bit different. But I always remember players of the Vets going, yeah, there is no Winnipeg game this year. We're okay not to. Quick, by the way, if you can put that board back up for a quick sec, we do have some news to share with you. That is on the 26th, the Buffalo game. We have been graciously donated 2 pairs of tickets. They are 100 level tickets.
Oh, nice.
Game from Michael Minot. We will give those away in tomorrow's show live. So if you're not watching the show, you're not going to win them. That's all I'm saying. So as long as you're part of the show tomorrow, I will simply ask a question for you guys to send in the answer to our email, and we will award a winner during the show tomorrow. All right, deal. Okay, let's move on. A couple of things. In fact, let's just get to Steve Staios right off the top, just talking about training camp and today.
Everybody's healthy and ready to go, and we'll go over fitness tests and results, but I feel like this group has taken a step in the right direction. I think the emphasis that Travis and the coaching staff have had on fitness and being prepared for the start of the season, I think hopefully will help us not only get off to a good start, but stay healthy.
So everybody's healthy. You can hear it in his voice. They're excited to get this camp underway. And I'm going to just go right into the next clip, and then we'll discuss it after. And that was, he was asked about the culture and what it kind of means. And yes, and he even admits we've used this word way too much, but he explains what he said to the players. I think they all got together last night.
It's an overused term, but I talked about the culture. I talked about, I think our players are starting to see and sense a bit of a different attitude, a different, just a bit of a different feel around our group. And that's really the emphasis. And culture isn't, you can say the word, but you got to live it every day. And I do believe our players who have been here understand that now. And certainly with the additions, the type of players that we brought in, I think will certainly add to that.
It's a different mindset, Simmer. Completely different mindset.
Well, it really is. And again, not easy to do, but I think you look at the sum of the work, Wally, and you understand when you're trying to target players, well, in the case of a trade, maybe not always the case, but in the case of Ullmark wanting to come, when it comes to free agency, we don't know. I mean, you're going to have to overpay or you're going to have the wrong fit for the players. And when you go through the checklist there, I don't think you could have had a better summer. I mean, to bring in the caliber of having Nick Cousins on the other day, a guy like Perron, Amadio, Jensen, and then of course Ullmark kind of being the king. We'll call him that because he's from Sweden. But yeah, I think you check through the list and it makes sense where the lineup is. You looks like you'll have all the defensemen playing on their proper side, and let's see what the mix ends up being in the top 9. I think that's the exciting part after building with that center ice. That hey, looks like you could have a very solid, when healthy, top 9 for the Ottawa Senators.
Yeah, and because of that, and I'm not even sure, TJ, I can't remember if the next clip about the playoff structure is how they built this. You know what? Let's just play the clip.
Question for Steve. Tim Baines, Post Media. You had a chance to stand back, watch, evaluate over the course of a full season. And you made changes in the offseason, how does the makeup of this roster give you a better chance of being a playoff caliber team?
I would say balance, experience and balance. I think, Linus Ullmark in net for us, I think, gives us some confidence. And then the players that we've brought in that have had success, have been through long playoffs, won Stanley Cups. I feel like that experience along with the goaltending, I mean, maybe the biggest, next step is this coaching staff. I think the depth of the coaching staff, led by Travis, the detail that the preparation that they've put in and the detail that we're going to play with, I think gives us that belief.
Simmer, can I just say that framing of the video is outstanding today.
It is actually very good work right there. And old Stevie's looking nice and sharp, and Travis Green looks like he just came off the golf course as well, which I saw he was out at Rideau the other day. The feeling for Steve Staios going into the year, this is your team now. You didn't draft these players, but as far as trades, as far as signings, and now having a coaching staff, and it could have worked out. We see people in the past, Lane Vigneault in Vancouver, where the GM inherits him. But in this particular case, I think everything for him just feels much better. Last year was everything crazy on the fly, and the Dadonov news coming out, and all these different things were happening, not to mention a bad start, where I think the confidence level just has to be so much higher going into this training camp.
And by the way, I think that's as excited as Steve Staios gets, just so we're clear. I think that was him really excited today. Yeah. I just liked listening to him. You could hear he admits to what was wrong with the group last year. When he says, listen, like he was asked if the team was soft last year, and I'll say he danced around it a little bit, but did circle back to kind of admitting they were not built the right way, if you will. Yeah. So they know the issues that they had. Now they know it's put up or shut up. It's as you said, it's their team. They know they've now hired a coaching staff, that it's on them to get this thing going.
Yeah, and I think within the market itself, one of the biggest question marks, and we probably don't talk about as much, is I don't want to say that people are, what would be the right term? I guess cautious as far as Travis Green. What is he capable of? I mean, certainly has experience as a head coach. You've got a great staff behind him. But I think that there's quite a bit of spotlight and quite a bit of pressure on the coaching staff where it's almost like as a manager, hey, I've given you the team. There's really nothing more that you can do at this point. I mean, there's certainly no magical trade going to come up if they start to struggle. The team is pretty much set. And as long as they stay healthy, I think it flips over now and the manager and ownership say, listen, we spent the money, we've given you the players. Now you got to go out and do something here. And I've got to think the internal pressure is legitimate, saying, hey, we want to make the playoffs. We want to be a playoff team, not just playing meaningful games and not dancing around it. We need the mindset that we got to make the playoffs or we can make the playoffs this year.
But Simmer, isn't that every year? Forgive me for sounding a little.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like,
but I think
every team go, well, of course we're going to make the playoffs.
I know, but when you miss 7 years in a row, I'm just saying there has to be a mindset in your group internally that actually believes, you're not just saying, oh, we want to play, end up being Buffalo where you go 100 years without making the playoffs. I'm just talking more of a legitimate mindset where the younger players that have been here that have never played in the playoffs start to look around at the group and the experience and say, okay, now we've got the tools here. We've got a good looking hockey team. We've got one of the better starting goaltenders in the National Hockey League. Let's make sure our internal expectations end up being higher.
So that I know we'll get to a playoff preview and all that stuff as the season draws near, but if you were to pick right now,
yeah,
are the Ottawa Senators one of the top 8 at the end of the 82 game schedule?
Well, I think that would be tough right now, Wally. I really just go within the division itself. I know you could end up having the wild card crossover, but all I say is right now. Now we'll see what happens in Boston with Swayman's situation. Don't forget they've lost some players. You look at a Florida, you look at a Tampa, Toronto. Well, yeah, exactly. This is going to be, or even 2 years ago, and they ended up having one of the best records. So, no, you're right. As of right now, no, I wouldn't put them ahead of any of those 4 teams. But that's why you start the regular season and you kind of look around at the depth charts and look around everybody and get a better idea of, okay, where do you actually stand? Like, what is the caliber of your hockey team? I would like to think internally they think that they're better than Montreal, better than Buffalo, and better than Detroit. But can they leapfrog one of those other 4 teams? Well, we'll find out come October.
So, okay, here's the thing, though. Don't you have, like, every year there's change, right? Everybody thought New Jersey last year was going to be a top 3 team. They didn't do it. And so the Islanders just squeaked in. We thought maybe like in Washington, Boston's interesting because if they don't have Swayman, wasn't it Don Sweeney today and said, well, I hope to get him signed by December 1st, which is obviously the cutoff or whatever. But like Brad Marchand had 3 surgeries in the off season. Yes, like they do have questions.
Yeah.
But Jimmy Montgomery seems to get them figured out pretty quick.
Well, they've got such a winning culture and just the mentality's been a carryover from the Bergeron years, the Chara years. But when you go, and that's where you have to be honest, I think, as a hockey operations group as well. You start going through your depth chart and saying, hey, realistically, where do we think we fit in? And then the other part that Steos touched on today that I love is the first thing you want to do is you're just scrambling to get the everything from the testing, see where everyone tested out, and you hope it ends up being something super positive. There's nobody necessarily negative. You just want it to be okay. Now we set the tone here. The guys have put in the work. It was another long off season, and now let's get to work here in training camp and let's get to work in some games.
Okay, I'm already said you're out for the playoffs. I think it is tough. I think they're in a wild card spot.
Okay, yeah.
It's so TJ, can you put the standings back up?
Yeah, it's funny. I never even think of the other division, Wally. So I guess that is a possibility. Certainly Washington, that's a hard one to figure out what direction they're going. Yeah. I've got to think New Jersey's going to be one of them. Got to think that the Rangers and Carolina. I guess the question would be, can Ottawa finish ahead of whoever you take 4th in that group?
Is Tampa where they should be? I think Tampa may be. Let me think here. I'm trying to think of the changes they made. I'm going to go.
You take out Stamkos and you put Gensel.
I know they added.
Did
they add Carter Verhaeghe? So who did they? No, out of Carolina.
They added Gensel.
Yeah, Jake Gensel.
Yeah. So no, I mean, I look at them as kind of an older group, and I don't think they have the depth that they've had in the past, and also a question of whether or not Vasilevsky will be able to rebound this year. So no, these are the things, though, I think internally, and it's not always easy because you love your players and you love all the trades and all the stuff the moves you ended up making. But if you look at it and you say, okay, let's compare the depth charts now. How do we match up against some of the better players, a Braden Point, a Kucherov, Hedman? Is it realistic to think that you've got players like that? Or do you just feel like, hey, we're a little more comfortable with our depth? From a Florida standpoint, that's been 2 very long seasons. They were certainly hit by some free agency as well. And I think you factor that in. I believe that there can be in this particular case, just because of, 2 long seasons, and all of a sudden losing of players, is there a little bit of a hangover for them? I think that's a distinct possibility.
It'll be, yeah, and that's what I'm saying. It'd be the first 20. Obviously, we always talk about the first 20 games and the Thanksgiving mark,
Yeah.
but it's interesting to see somebody's going to move, right? Somebody's not going to have the great start, and there's going to be a lot of questions. Even remember the Islanders, they were struggling, obviously, and then they made the change to bring in Patrick Roy, and he got things turned around. But if they didn't, then they would have been on the outside looking anyway.
Yeah.
I just think that
I mean, I look at the Islanders, and again, that would be internally, if I'm Ottawa, I'd be bullish on my lineup, saying, okay, I think we should finish ahead of the Islanders. I think we should finish ahead of the Washington Capitals. We should actually right now be able to pass the Pittsburgh Penguins. I think you look at that, and I think that's a fair assessment to say, hey, where do you stack up within the division? Where do you stack up within the conference? And just see where it is. And even not a ton in the preseason, but the other part is just having your pro scouts and obviously your coaching staff, the first, as you said, 10, 20 games, getting an idea of where the other teams around you, and realistically, where do you stack up in that? And then, not even worrying about that at first, just worrying about removing the psychology, the bad starts. I think that's the next part you want to do, is just, hey, let's just not even be looking at other stuff. Let's just focus on ourselves here and make sure we get off to a hell of a start.
It was interesting. Nobody asked the question today, which thank God, because it's been over asked, is about starts. We'll see how it plays
I think for
out.
Steve Staios, it's only been 1 year, and Travis Green is brand new. You got so many new players. I don't think it should be a factor within the dressing room, or certainly the coaching staff isn't going to look at that and what happened in the past and really end up caring at the end of the day.
Linus Ullmark is and obviously goaltending, but Linus Ullmark is the huge question for me. I think he's going to be outstanding.
Yeah, I agree. And just the mindset, the transition. And this was a trade. And this was not a team that he had on his 10-team no trade list. So his decision to come here, to get set up shop early, to end up buying a house. And it just feels like within the locker room, when you hear the players talk about him on and off the ice, Wally, I didn't know what to expect as far as, I love the camaraderie that he had with Swayman, but it just feels like they've gotten a real leader here. And it kind of reminds me of Ole Kolzig back in the day, where you don't see that a ton, or Roberto Luongo. You don't see that a ton with goaltenders, but he feels like, no, I can transition here. You're able to talk to me on the day of a game. And, I can actually provide a leadership thing versus just being off in the corner with Forsberg doing my own thing.
I was going to say, it's weird to say with goalies with the letters. Craig Anderson would be, you know what? He might have earned a letter somewhat in Ottawa too. He was very well respected. But Linus Ullmark seems like a guy people want to follow, if you will, if you get my drift.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I'm also curious, and it was not brought up, or at least I didn't hear any of the quotes talking about a contract extension.
It was asked.
Oh, okay.
Timmy Baines did ask it, and Steve he blew it off, right? He's been here a month. We'll let him get settled. Let him figure it out. And we'll get to it. So not much you can say. I don't think Ullmark is in any rush to have a discussion.
Yeah, I don't know. I see it both ways. The test drive. Remember when Jason Spezza got dealt to Dallas? Jimmy Nill saying that, listen, let's just give him some time. I think they were very confident and very patient. They knew what their program was and what the city had to offer, and they ended up getting an extension, I think, in November. I'm just curious from an Ullmark standpoint on a few levels here. If all of a sudden it's a big love affair, it feels great, being able to solidify that versus going into the year without a contract. And I also say this from a PR standpoint, and just give a little bit of a push from a ticket standpoint. I think there's some pretty nice news in training camp, but also if everybody's confident on both sides to just play the patience game, that's fine. Let's just hope they get off to a good start, and you're not talking about the trade deadline with him and Claude Giroux and a non-playoff hockey team.
By the way, there will be news at training camp, because in 2 days is the deadline for the NCC and the arena deal. So there is that. But I do like the Ullmark thing. Yeah, I'm with you. about news. But the last time, I believe it was in training camp or whenever it was, they wanted to sell tickets and they signed Colin White to an 8-year contract.
I
Didn't
feel like
go.
the one off season that they signed everybody that Newport Sports had. That was when Bobby Ryan, and all of a sudden David Legwan shows up. You're like,
Yeah,
where the heck did that one come? And there was
David
just a whole
Legwan.
spree of it. It was Leonard signing, it was Bobby Ryan, it was David Legwan. So, you don't do it as a PR stunt. I don't ever mean
Yeah.
that.
They
But like I
did.
said, no, I know. But in the case of Ullmark, I'm not
Yes.
doing this.
Okay.
Okay, it's not that rationale. It's more like, hey, if this is a nice little tidy piece of business and the numbers end up being right,
Yeah.
I'm guessing on a 5 or 6 year deal, and you end up figuring out the proper AAV. Yeah, why not see what you can end up doing?
By the way, more on Linus Ullmark in just a sec, and because you had asked the question about him playing games, and he was asked. Travis Green was asked about it, so we'll get to that in a sec. But first, before I get in trouble, this show proudly presented by Bet365. Open an account today with Bet365 and bet on a huge range of markets. So whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Use code DAILY365. Must be 19 years of age or older. Please play responsibly. Don't forget, download the app, and by our good friends at BEI. The ice, I believe, is just going in the Cobden Arena, so Free Hockey Friday is on its way back. BEI, equipment rentals, aggregate topsoil sales, custom crushing and screening, hot mix paving. They will take care of your driveway if you need it redone, or laneway, as some people call it. They're a heavy civil general contractor helping to shape the Ottawa Valley. Give them a call, 613-432-1120, or bonishirexcavating.com. Okay, Simmer. We're going to tie the Ullmark section of the show now, because we got a lot to discuss here.
Yeah.
As we said, I think he's the key cog in the wheel. Here is so Travis Green was asked, how many games is Linus Ullmark going to play this year?
Well, I don't like to put just an exact number on it. And with any elite goalie, if you talk to them, they probably want to play every game, every night. And that's what competitors want. As a coach, I'd love that too, but it's not reality. We've got to map it out. I know with Linus, much like other starting goalies, there's that magic number, 50 games, where's it at? And part of it is, how's your backup playing as well? And do you have confidence putting your backup in? And I believe we're going to have a really good tandem this year. But he's going to play a lot of games. I don't have an exact number. I'd hate to say a number and then it not happen. So, but he's, that 50 number is a good number, and I know he wants to play as many as he can as well.
50 games, Simmer. Is that where you think he should be, or should Linus Ullmark be higher?
I wouldn't go into necessarily has to be higher, but as Coach Green just said there, Wally, I wouldn't want to be saying, oh, he has to. But in a perfect formula, what would you want to do? You'd want to play in 2 out of every 3 games, right? Which basically is 55 for 27, how that ends up working out. I think that's realistic. If you're pegging this guy as one of the top goaltenders in the National Hockey League, and I also feel like Forsberg may thrive in a little lesser role, being ready. And then the other part, I just hope philosophically, this isn't this idea they continue along with in the National Hockey League where guys can't play back-to-back games. If I got a goaltender that's on a hot streak, I don't care. I'm just going to end up keep playing them. So I've got to think, and I believe in Boston. And part of that was, hey, that was probably the best tandem in the National Hockey League. Ullmark did not, obviously play that, but that was rare, you having a guy like Swayman. So, yeah, I think north of 50 is very realistic. And I would expect for a couple of things. First of all, the caliber of my goaltender. And when you get into the allotment of salary when it comes to a contract extension, hey, that's what my expectations have to be. And he has to be the backbone of my hockey club. So I'd be more than happy if he turns into a nice workhorse. The other thing to factor in with him, Wally, and not that it's a big deal, pretty good chance he's a starting goaltender for Sweden at the Four Nations. So that's just a small factor on how you may handle that, how you'd want him if you're in a playoff spot, how you may end up handling that with a guy like Forsberg as well.
The number for me, the magic number, is 82. I would like to see him play 82 games.
Yeah, I think the last one to do that was in the 1950s or whatever it was.
Yeah. Grant Fuhr played 72 one year, I think it was. That's
Marty Brodeur. Marty Brodeur used to be incredible. Yeah, the workload that Yeah, well, it was a whole different world. The old hooking and holding and playing the puck, that was a bit of a different time.
If I had time to look it up, I would. So which, you know what, Simmer? Since we're on to this, let's get right to the Simmer survey.
Hear ye, hear ye. Yeah. How many games will Linus Ullmark start? And of course, I'll put this out on Twitter afterwards. And yeah, I'm gonna go between 50 and 55. I wouldn't be bullish enough to think that he'd end up coming in and playing 60, Wally. But I'd be a little shocked. Well, certainly number one is basically a splitting of the games. So as long as he's healthy, I'll end up going with number 3. What about you?
So his career high is 49.
Okay.
He wants to play more. 50 to 55 is an easy guess. Could he possibly get to 6? I can't imagine. So I guess
Yeah.
the 50 to 55 is, and I mean, Greener already kind of alluded to, he
Yeah.
wants him in around at 50, or at least that's what he said. So yeah, I guess 50 to 55 is the door number 3, if you will. The question is in our YouTube poll. If you want to participate early on, 50% of the people are picking 50 to 55. So I did, by the way, quickly look up. Marty Brodeur has the record for most games started at
70?
78.
Wow.
In 06-07, he played 78 games. He won 48 games, which is more than most people start.
Yeah.
Grant Fuhr played 70. Sorry, he started 78. He played 79 in that St. Louis year, 95, 96. Then it's Brodeur again at 77. Mark Denis in Columbus played 77 games one year.
Holy moly.
And then
well,
it's Nabokov.
I don't think we're going to see that happen again with the philosophy really changing of not wanting to play goaltenders in the back-to-back games. I just don't think you'd see that. But man, that would have been the dream job back in the day, to be the backup for Marty Brodeur. That's probably in Chris Terreri territory, or no, maybe a little later than that. But that's a nice job to have. Only play 4 games all year, make an NHL salary, and just have a good attitude and work hard in practice.
And don't ruffle the feathers.
No, exactly. And make sure you become best buds with Marty too. Okay.
Scott Clemenson was the backup goalie. Played 6 games that year.
Wow.
He went 1-1-2.
Graduate of Boston College, played on those teams that went to 4 national championships and won one.
Kevin Weeks played 9 games the next year.
Wow.
Yeah. Anyway, same with didn't Henrik? I thought Henrik Lundqvist used to always just play a ton too, and it was always like Marty Biron was the backup forever until he got to go to Edmonton or whatever it was. But
no, he certainly thrived on the work as well, and that is exactly that. When you have a guy that's competitive, Wally wants the net. I remember talking to Craig Billington about his experience with Patrick Waugh, and of all things, Patrick didn't want anybody that was a influence or anybody that could threaten him as far as his job. And you're thinking, well, there is nobody in the NHL that can. But he just was like, listen, he just wants a support guy, want a guy that's going to work hard in practice and basically be his best buddy. So everybody's got a little different mentality. But I think just the presence of the team, and the other part we keep going back to, and I don't think there'll be any of this talk in this market, is, well, at some point you're going to have to get Forsberg in. No. If you start the season off with the light schedule that they end up having, Wally, we went through that, what they have in October. I think there's a small chance, if they get off to a pretty good start, that Forsberg doesn't see the net until November. I mean, I don't think that's unrealistic whatsover. No,
because they'll make the argument. You got to get him in. You got to get him in the game.
I don't know. You get off to a pretty good start. You start winning some hockey games. I mean, I'm probably being a bit strong on it. Okay, you throw him a game. But like I said, I don't think the coaching staff is going to look at it this way. Hey, you've gotten a stud goaltender. Now an opportunity to maximize it. And I just think as a tandem, the fact that they're at the same age, same kind of point in life as far as young families, and the fact that they played together previously in Sweden, I just think this is going to bring out the best. And everyone talks about Forsberg's work ethic. I think the healthy competition between the two of them is going to be awesome.
I'm just trying to quickly. I was going to go look up the schedule again. Normally we have it ready to go, but I didn't send it in today.
But that October schedule is light.
It's light. It without question, it's a great
Yeah.
schedule for them.
Yeah.
I just I've been around it for too long for them to go,
Oh yeah.
like I
No, I understand.
I'm just trying to think of the teams. They go Florida, at Montreal, home to LA on an afternoon,
Yeah.
home to New Jersey, home to Tampa.
Like,
And
look
then
at
they're
how
in
light that is.
Utah,
Yeah.
Vegas, Colorado. Like that's a
Yeah.
tough grind for them. But maybe he
Yeah.
gets Utah. Maybe he's home to St. Louis. Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
I'm-
Well, hey, it's only 9 games, and honestly, with the spacing of it, and like
yeah.
you just pointed out, pretty good chance even with the goaltender coach, maybe even with Ullmark, you want to make sure he gets a start. But let's put it this way: through the first 9 games and through the month of October, if Ullmark or Forsberg only gets one start, I won't be shocked. That's all I'll say. I'll back off on the no starts, and I'll go. I wouldn't be shocked if he ends up getting one start.
Yeah. So if you are Justin Peters,
Yeah.
who starts that Montreal game on the Saturday? See, in my mind, it's going to be Forsberg because they want to get him in. But if Ullmark
Okay.
had a great start, you go right
Yeah.
back to him, don't you?
Well, I think what you're basically at this point where Ulmark's at, and I get the feel, I'm sure the goalie coach is going to weigh in and there'll be discussions with the coaching staff, but I think it's also what Ulmark says. Listen, I want to get comfortable with this new team. I love when I work and work more. I think that's all it's all going to be predicated on is what's he comfortable with. Then you get into November. You have some back-to-back games. You have obviously a busier schedule. I think this is pretty going to be up to Ullmark, and I think Forsberg, by all sounds of it, is a great teammate. He'll probably end up supporting it.
Oh, without question. Yeah. I have not like everybody that's been around that team that over the last couple of years, and I remember even the offseason of last year in particular, because he was rehabbing from the knee injuries, was how great a teammate Anton Forsberg is and how well
Yeah,
liked he is.
yeah,
But
yeah.
it's key as a backup. You gotta be good and I'll say good in the room, right? They
Well,
just
yeah, I mean, yeah, and you know, and honestly, I know it sounds crazy. What do guys look up for a backup goaltender? Someone that will stay on the ice until the end of practice. That's really the biggest commodity. Sure,
yeah.
I mean, and what Swede isn't a nice guy. What I want is to make sure that this guy's putting in the work. He's willing to stay out, and if you're going to work on some extra things, that you have that opportunity. That's the biggest factor when it comes to a backup goaltender. And then I'm assuming being buddies, and I don't know how the rooming system goes. I guess these guys probably most of them get their own room these days.
There's no more rooms anymore unless
Yeah.
unless you're an entry level contract guy, I think.
Okay.
But
Okay. Yeah.
there's very few guys that have roommates anymore.
Yeah. But I'm assuming that Forsberg and Ullmark just chumming around, probably in the city itself. And as I said, just from a family perspective, like everything to me on the surface, without really knowing either of them, I think this is just a tremendous fit. And you know,
Yeah.
again, I know it was a contract year, but I think Forsberg will bounce back and be, I think, very, very effective in that backup role.
As we say, we shall see. And then there's always that devil on the shoulder going, what happens if Olmark's not very good at the beginning?
Oh my God. Yeah.
then,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And then it just everything just goes to hell in a handbasket.
And I'm also very careful on social media because I know Korpisalo was not good last year, Wally. And as Yorkie keeps saying, kind of shocked that they were able to unload him. But then when he went to LA and he was 9-2-1 in the regular season, wasn't great in the playoffs. We saw what different guys, and we know what Boston's system is. I just be careful on this whole idea. If Swayman holds out, oh, look at Korpisalo. And I'm not, you know, again, I'm not here saying, hey, go the whole year with Korpisalo. But stranger things have happened. And if he gives an opportunity, and I don't know what to make of Swayman, I think this is just a lot of posturing right now. But if they have to start the season with him, that'll be very interesting at the same time.
He'll be done before camp starts.
I would assume so. Yeah, I like I said, you don't see this very often anymore. But obviously,
But Brady was a little late. Brady,
yeah,
remember they played a play. They were in he showed up during the middle of a exhibition game, and everybody all hailed him as he stood in the second level.
Yeah,
like.
That was when the double Pierres went down to Belleville and ended up getting the contract done. So, no, you're right. But it just, I guess in general, it's not something that we end up talking about. You should be philosophically able to work out the numbers. I don't know if they're looking for a bridge deal. They're looking for 8 years. But I also wonder, and not that the way Sweeney acted today, I don't think that he's feeling the pressure of the contract right now, but he's certainly feeling some of the pressure of the comments on the negotiations. And one of the other things I'll say for old Biz Nasty, it was also a year ago, right around this time, that he put out the rumor about Mike Babcock. And I remember the organization shooting back at him. Remember? And it was like, no, come on, this never happened. And then, all of a sudden, Mike Babcock's out of a job. So I'm just curious what his source is. Or, like I said, I think this is a lot of posturing from the team and from the agent at this point.
I stand corrected. It was game 1 against Toronto that Brady arrived for.
Okay. He was skating down in Ann Arbor with the development people.
Yes. Yeah. That's a great facility, by the way. Anyway, we'll move on. Quickly before I forget, we've raised. There's been nearly, I think, $1,000 donated to food banks.
Awesome.
And so there's still plenty of time to just make even $5 makes a big difference as you keep adding up the numbers. So if you want to win 2 tickets to the home opener to see Linus Ullmark, Nick Cousins face his former team, Ullmark with a shutout. But you can just make a donation to any food bank. Send me the receipt to cominginhotsends@gmail.com. I've replied to everybody so far that has sent in some, except one. There was one today. I've replied to everybody just to let them know that they're in the draws. We will take care of that. Draw date is October the 8th. They are 100 level tickets. Go and enjoy the game. And I think there's prizes and stuff that you can also win at the game. So have a great time. Just make a donation to the food bank.
It's funny when you also talk about opening night, Wally. The few things that come to mind are how upset Eugene Melnick was years ago because the starting goaltender didn't end up starting the home opener. I think started in
Matt
Toronto
O'Connor
the night before. Yeah, Matt O'Connor. The other one, I saw a picture today of Austin Matthews with his family, and I just kept thinking about how many times they went to him. And now they ended up losing that game, but did he have 4 that night in Ottawa?
He did. He did. That's when Craig Anderson asked for him to sign his goalie stick.
Yeah, Ottawa ended up still winning the game, but those are some of the memories when you think about opening nights for the Ottawa Senators.
There have been some classics, if you will. They used to have a great record. I don't know I haven't looked it up lately, but they used to have a great opening record. It was plus above 500, whatever it was.
Well, anyway. I don't know if it was last year or the year before. They ended up beating the Toronto Maple Leafs, and that felt like the Stanley Cup. Like that was such a, the crowd and the atmosphere and just everything. That was just like, okay, we can cancel the rest of the season now. The fan base is happy.
Well, the players tried, it looked like, or somebody tried because they didn't have a very good season.
No, for sure.
All right. Tomorrow they're back on the ice, or not back on the ice. They're on the ice tomorrow. Today was just media day. It's called the car wash, where that's where they get all the photos and headshots and videos done. They do all the medical stuff, all the testing, all that stuff. Tomorrow they're on the ice for the first practice. Travis Green, as I think I alluded to earlier on, said he's not looking at lines right away. More or less just wants to see where some guys fit. Brady Tkachuk, if you missed it, is expected to join the team tomorrow. That'll be exciting, Simmer. It
is nice. And I thought as far as the format being a little bit different, I'm so used to seeing the group 1 practices and then group 2 comes on, they have a little scrimmage, then group 3 goes later in the day. At least when I looked at the release from the Sens, I believe it was just 3 straight practices. So I'm assuming if you're a player, you realize there's going to be some work done here. This is probably going to be more about conditioning, more about getting the work ethic. And as you said, not worrying about line combinations or deep pairings at this point.
Quickly in the chat, people are asking if it's open to the public. They are at the CTC tomorrow. It is not open to the public. I'm not sure if any of them yet are open. One thing that we did learn today, Travis Green does not give out, like there used to always be a set schedule. You would Monday, it's this time, this Tuesday for the entire camp. We don't know that as of right now. It's up to Travis on a daily basis of how it's going to play out. So things are changing around Ottawa. So we'll find out tomorrow what the next day is like. But as of right now, tomorrow, we saw the groupings earlier. There's no scheduled scrimmages planned.
No. And as of right now, all I'm asking from Travis Green is please tell us who your starting goaltender is this year. That's
no
one
chance.
Of my pet peeves.
Why?
Smith.
Does it matter? So? Does it really matter?
No, it doesn't. But that's the whole reason why you give it out, because it doesn't matter if you do, Wally.
Right.
That's why I want to know the starting goaltender.
It is a bit of a pet peeve of like we see at practice who's if you're in the starter's net, it's a very good chance. The only time you don't know is if it's an optional skate and they don't have one of the two goalies on the ice, then you're like, but if that goalie is in the starter's net, it usually means he's getting the start.
That's true. That's true. But like I say, not even a big deal. More just having a little bit of fun with it. And like we kind of went back to our original point. One thing I'm going to be bold in saying is that I think we're going to see a lot of Mr. Ullmark as he sets a tone for the hockey club. And like we went back to just the feel. And well, look at that. And would that be? Is that with Columbus's farm team?
That's Modo.
Sweden. Oh, that's Modo. Right? Okay.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Little known fact, Simmer. Yeah. I have a Modo golf ball signed by Victor Hedman.
Oh, nice. Right? And he was just named captain of the Tampa Bay Lightning today. No surprise there.
Right? Yeah, no. And Nick Foligno named captain of the Chicago Blackhawks. But I went to see Victor Hedman for we just done the World Championships in Zurich, and they're like, we just want you to go to Sweden to Örnsköldsvik and do a quick interview with him and his parents.
Oh, nice.
We've lined up some teacher, blah, blah, blah. So when I arrive, Victor's nowhere to be found. Now, keep in mind, he's like an 18-year-old kid. It's his draft year.
Oh, okay.
So we drive up to his parents' house. No answer at the door. But they do have, the funny thing is, outside, they have two signs that say reserved for Modo parking. It was hilarious. Anyway, I, for whatever reason, walked around the side of the house. His dad is having lunch in the backyard. Knows nothing about what's happening. Doesn't know that we're showing up. The teacher doesn't know we're showing up. Yep, they all spoke English. Nobody knew we were coming. Victor goes, I didn't. I forgot to tell people. Anyway, he comes out with two signed golf balls for myself and my camera guy, Dave Joy. Anyway.
Isn't that amazing when you're traveling around Sweden, though, how much it reminds you of traveling around Ontario? Like, I just couldn't believe it. I made the drive, I think, from Gothenburg to Stockholm, a couple of stops on the way to see Linköping. But I just couldn't believe it. I'm like looking around like this looks exactly like the drive from Ottawa to North Bay.
That's you're not wrong.
Yeah.
When I went to it was the same arena. No, the Sens were practicing in one arena. I remember we went over, and in there was a Star Wars display where they had. I'm not a Star Wars guy. This may surprise you. I think it's called like the Land Cruiser display.
Yeah,
I was like, this is just very bizarre. Anyway. I don't know how we got on this time. I apologize. So
that's okay.
We're back tomorrow, 3 p.m. We will have updates from practice, lines to discuss. We'll have some video if I can shoot it properly, and clips. So, Simmer, thanks for stopping by. We'll do it again tomorrow.
Absolutely, brother. Enjoy the beautiful day, and look forward to seeing everyone tomorrow. Cheers.
See you, everybody.
Thanks for tuning in to Coming In Hot. If you enjoyed the show, hit that like button and be sure to subscribe to never miss an episode.